The night of the Academy Awards, Rex and I sat next to each other, holding hands, allowing everyone a glimpse of the romantic marriage we were peddling around town. We both smiled politely when we lost, clapping for the winners. I was disappointed but not surprised. It seemed a little too good to be true, the idea of Oscars for people like Rex and me, beautiful movie stars trying to prove they had substance. I got the distinct impression that a lot of people wanted us to stay in our lane, so we took it in stride and then partied the night away, the two of us drinking and dancing until the wee hours. Celia wasn't at the awards that year, and despite the fact that I searched for her at every party Rex and I went to, I didn't lay eyes on her. Instead, Rex and I painted the town red. At the William Morris party, I found Harry and dragged him into a quiet corner, where the two of us sipped champagne and talked about how wealthy we were going to be. You should know this about the rich. They always want to get richer. It is never boring, getting your hands on more money. When I was a child, trying to find something to eat for dinner besides the old rice and dry beans in the kitchen, I would tell myself that if I could just have a good meal every night, I'd be happy. When I was at Sunset Studios, I told myself all I wanted was a mansion. When I got the mansion, I told myself all I wanted was 2 houses and a team of help. Here I was, just turned 25, already realizing that no amount would ever really be enough. Rex and I went home at around 5 in the morning, the two of us downright drunk. As our car drove away, I searched my purse for keys to the house, and Rex stood beside me, breathing his sour gin breath down my neck. "My wife can't find the keys," Rex said, stumbling ever so slightly. "She's trying very hard, but she can't seem to find them." "Would you be quiet?" I said. "Do you want to wake the neighbors?" "What are they going to do?" Rex said, even louder than before. "Kick us out of town? Is that what they will do, my precious Evelyn? Will they tell us we can't live on Blue Jay Way anymore? Will they make us move to Robin Drive or Oriole Lane?" I found the keys, put them in the door, and turned the knob. The two of us fell inside. I said good night to Rex and went to my room. I took off my dress alone, without anyone there to unzip the back of it. The loneliness of my marriage hit harder in that moment than it ever had. I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror and could see in no uncertain terms that I was beautiful. But it didn't mean anyone loved me. I stood in my slip and looked at my brassy blonde hair and my dark brown eyes and my straight, thick eyebrows, and I missed the woman who should have been my wife. I missed Celia. My mind reeled with the thought that she might be with John Braverman that very moment. I knew better than to believe any of it, but I also feared that I didn't know her the way I thought I did. Did she love him? Had she forgotten me? Tears welled in my eyes as I thought about her red hair that used to fan across my pillows. "There, there," Rex said from behind me. I turned around to see him standing in the doorway. He had taken off his tux jacket and undone his cufflinks. His shirt was half-buttoned, his bow tie undone, hanging on either side of his neck. It was the very sight that millions of women across the nation would have killed for. "I thought you went to bed," I said. "If I'd known you were up, I'd have had you help me get my dress off." I would have liked that. I waved him off. "What are you doing? Can't sleep?" "I haven't tried." He walked farther into the room, closer to me. "Well, try then. It's late. At this rate, the two of us will be asleep until evening." "Think about it, Evelyn," he said. The lights streaming in through the windows lit his blonde hair. His dimples glowed. "Think about what?" "Think about what it would be like." He moved closer to me and put his hand on my waist. He stood behind me, his breath once again on my neck. It felt good to be touched by him. "Movie stars are movie stars are movie stars," Sure, we all fade after a while. We are human, full of flaws like anyone else. But we are the chosen ones because we are extraordinary. And there is nothing an extraordinary person likes more than someone else extraordinary. Rex, Evelyn, he said, whispering into my ear, just once. Shouldn't we? No, I said, we shouldn't. But I was not wholly convinced of my answer, and thus neither was Rex. You should go back to your room before we both do something we'll regret tomorrow. Are you sure? He said. Your wish is my command, but I'd like it very much if you changed your wish. I won't change it, I said. Think of it, though, he said. He raised his hands higher up my torso, the silk of my slip, the only thing between us. Think of the way I'd feel on top of you. I laughed. I will not think about that. If I think about that, we'll both be sunk. Think of the way we'd move together, the way we'd be slow at first and then lose control. Does this work with other women? I've never had to work this hard with other women, he said, kissing my neck. I could have walked away from him. I could have slapped him right across the face, and he would have taken it with a stiff upper lip and left me alone. But I wasn't ready for this part to be over. I liked being tempted. I liked knowing I might make the wrong decision. And it would absolutely have been the wrong decision, because as soon as I got out of that bed, Rex would forget how badly he'd worked to get me. He'd remember only that he'd had me. And this wasn't a typical marriage. There was too much money on the line. I let him flick one side of my slip off. I let him run his hand underneath the neckline of it. Oh, what it would be to lose myself in you, he said, to lie underneath you and watch you writhe on top of me. I almost did it. I almost ripped my own slip off and threw him onto the bed. But then he said, "Come on, baby. You know you want to." And it became perfectly clear just how many times Rex had tried this before with countless other women. Never let anyone make you feel ordinary. Get out of here, I said, though not unkindly. But no buts. Go on to bed. Evelyn, Rex, you're drunk and you're confusing me for one of your many girls. But I'm your wife, I said, with all obvious irony. Not even once, he said. He seemed to sober up quickly, as if his hooded eyes had been part of the act. I was never really sure with him. You never knew exactly where you stood with Rex North. Don't try it again, Rex. It's not going to happen. He rolled his eyes and then kissed me on the cheek. Good night, Evelyn, he said. Then he slipped out my door just as smoothly as he'd come in. The next day, I woke up to a ringing phone, deeply hung over and mildly confused about where I was. Hello? Rise and shine, little bird. Harry, what on earth? The sun in my eyes felt like a burn. After you left the Fox party last night, I had a very interesting conversation with Sam Poole. What was a Paramount exec doing at a Fox party? Trying to find you and me, Harry said. Well, and Rex. To do what? To suggest that Paramount signed you and Rex to a 3-picture deal. What? They want 3 movies, produced by us, starring you and Rex. Sam said to name a price. Name a price? Whenever I had too much to drink, I always woke up the next morning feeling as if I were underwater. Everything looked muted, sounded blurry. I needed to make sure I was following. What do you mean, name a price? Do you want $1 million for a picture? I heard that's what Don's getting for the time before. We could get that for you, too. Did I want to make as much money as Don? Of course I did. I wanted to get the paycheck and mail a copy of it to him with a photo of my middle finger. But mostly I wanted the freedom to do whatever I wanted. No, I said, nope, I'm not signing some contract where they tell me what movies to be in. You and I decide what movies I do. That's it." "You aren't listening." "I'm listening just fine," I said, shifting my weight onto my shoulder and changing the arm that was holding the phone. I thought to myself, I'm going to go for a swim today. I should tell Louisa to heat the pool. "We choose the movies," Harry said. "It's a blind deal. Whatever films you and Rex like, Paramount wants to buy, whatever salary we want." "All because of Anna Karenina?" "We've proven your name brings people into the theater. And if I'm being entirely clear-eyed about this, I think Sam Poole wants to screw over Ari Sullivan. I think he wants to take what Ari Sullivan threw away and make gold out of it. So I'm a pawn." "Everyone's a pawn. Don't go around taking things personally now, when you never have before." "Any movies we want?" "Anything we want." "Have you told Rex?" "Do you honestly think I would run a single thing by that cad before running it by you?" "Oh, he is not a cad." "If you had been there to talk to Joy Nathan after he broke her heart, you'd disagree." "Harry, he's my husband." "Evelyn, no, he's not." "Can't you find something to like about him?" "Oh, there's plenty to like about him. I love how much money he's made us, how much he will make us." "Well, he's always done good by me. I told him no, and he walked out my door. Not every man would do that, not every man had." "That's because you both want the same thing. You, of all people, should know that you can't tell a single thing about a person's true character if you both want the same thing. That's like a dog and a cat getting along because they both want to kill the mouse." "Well, I like him. And I want you to like him, especially because if we sign this deal, Rex and I will have to stay married quite a bit longer than we originally thought, which makes him my family, and you're my family, so you're both family." "Plenty of people don't like their families." "Oh, shut up," I said. "Let's get Rex on board and sign this thing, okay? Get your agents together to hammer out the deal. Let's ask for the moon." "Okay," I said. "Evelyn," Harry said before getting off the phone. "Yes?" "You know what's happening, right?" "What?" "You're about to become the highest-paid actress in Hollywood." For the next 2.5 years, Rex and I stayed married, living in a house in the hills, developing and shooting movies at Paramount. We were staffed up with an entire team of people by that point. A pair of agents, a publicist, lawyers, and a business manager for each of us, as well as 2 on-set assistants and our staff at the house, including Louisa. We woke up every day in our separate beds, got ready on opposite sides of the house, and then got into the same car and drove to the set together, holding hands the moment we drove onto the lot. We worked all day and then drove home together, at which point we'd split up again for our own evening plans. Mine were often with Harry or a few Paramount stars I had taken a liking to, or I went out on a date with someone I trusted to keep a secret. During my marriage to Rex, I never met anyone I felt desperate to see again. Sure, I had a few flings, some with other stars, one with a rock singer, a few with married men, the group most likely to keep the fact that they'd betted a movie star a secret. But it was all meaningless. I assumed Rex was having meaningless dalliances too, and for the most part he was, until suddenly he wasn't. One Saturday he came into the kitchen as Louisa was making me some toast. I was drinking a cup of coffee and having a cigarette, waiting for Harry to come pick me up for a round of tennis. Rex went to the fridge and poured himself a glass of orange juice. He sat down beside me at the table. Louisa put the toast in front of me and then set the butter dish in the center of the table. "Anything for you, Mr. North?" she asked. Rex shook his head. "Thank you, Louisa." And then all 3 of us could sense it. She needed to excuse herself. Something was about to happen. "I'll be starting the laundry," she said, and slipped away. "I'm in love," Rex said when we were finally alone. It was perhaps the very last thing I ever thought he'd say. "In love?" I asked. He laughed at my shock. "It doesn't make any sense. Trust me, I know that." "With whom?" "Joy." "Joy Nathan?" "Yes, we've seen each other on and off through the years. You know how it is." "I know how it is with you, sure, but last I heard you broke her heart." "Yes, well, it will come as no surprise to you that I have, in the past, been a little, let's say, heartless." "Sure, we can say that." Rex laughed. "But I started feeling like it might be nice to have a woman in my bed when I woke up in the morning." "How novel." "And when I thought of what woman I might like that to be, I thought of Joy. So we've been seeing each other, quietly, mind you. And well, now I find that I can't stop thinking about her, that I want to be around her all the time." "Rex, that's wonderful," I said. "I hoped you'd think so." "So what should we do?" I asked. "Well," he said, breathing deeply, "Joy and I would like to marry." "Okay," I said, my brain already kicking into high gear, calculating the perfect time to announce our divorce. We'd already had 2 movies come out, one a modest hit, one a smash. The third, Carolina Sunset, about a young couple who have lost a child and moved to a farm in North Carolina to try to heal, ultimately having affairs with people in their small town, was premiering in a few months. Rex had phoned in his performance, but I knew the movie had the potential to be big for me. We'll say that the stress of filming Carolina Sunset, of being on set and watching each other kiss other people, ruined us. Everyone will feel bad for us, but not too bad. People love stories of hubris. We took what we had for granted, and now we're paying the price. You'll wait a little while. We'll plant a story that I introduced you to Joy because I wanted you to be happy." "That's great, Evelyn, really," Rex said, "except that Joy's pregnant. We're having a baby." I closed my eyes, frustrated. "Okay," I said, "okay, let me think." "What if we just say that we haven't been happy for a while, that we've been living separate lives?" "Then we're saying that our chemistry has fizzled out, and who's going to go see Carolina Sunset then?" This was the moment, the one Harry had warned me about. Rex didn't care about Carolina Sunset, certainly not as much as I did. He knew he wasn't anything special in it, and even if he was all wrapped up in his new love, his new baby. He looked out the window and then back at me. "Okay," he said, "you're right. We went into this together. We'll leave it together. What do you suggest? I told Joy we'd be married by the time the baby comes." Rex North was always a more stand-up guy than anyone gave him credit for. "Obviously," I said, "of course." The doorbell rang, and a moment later, Harry walked into the kitchen. I had an idea. It wasn't a flawless idea. Almost no idea is. "We're having affairs," I said. "What?" Rex asked. "Good morning," Harry said, realizing he'd missed a large part of the conversation. During the course of making a movie about both of us having affairs, we both started having affairs. You with Joy, me with Harry. "What?" Harry said. "People know we work together," I said to Harry. "They've seen us together. You've been in the background of hundreds of photos of me. They'll believe it." I turned to Rex. "We'll divorce immediately after the stories are planted, and anyone who blames you for cheating on me with Joy, which we can't deny for obvious reasons, will realize it's a victimless crime because I was doing it to you too." "This actually isn't a terrible idea," Rex said. "Well, it makes both of us look bad," I said. "Sure," Rex said. "But it will sell tickets," Harry said. Rex smiled and then looked me right in the eye, put out his hand and shook mine. "No one's going to believe it," Harry said as we drove to the tennis club later that morning. "People in town, at least." "What do you mean?" "You and me. There are a lot of people who will dismiss it right out of hand. Because they know what I am. I mean, I've considered doing something like this before, maybe one day even taking a wife. God knows it would make my mother happy. She's still sitting there in Champaign, Illinois, desperately wondering when I'll find a nice girl and have a family. I would love to have a family, but too many people would see through it. He looked at me briefly as he drove, just as I'm afraid too many people will see through this. I looked out my window at the palm trees swaying at their tops. So we make it undeniable, I said. The thing I liked about Harry was that he was never one step behind me. Photos, he said, of the two of us. Yeah, candids, looking like we've been caught at something. Isn't it easier for you just to pick someone else, he said. I don't want to get to know someone else, I said. I'm sick of trying to pretend I'm happy. At least with you, I'll be pretending to love someone I really do love. Harry was quiet for a moment. I think you should know something, he said finally. Okay? Something I've thought I should tell you for some time. Okay, tell me. I've been seeing John Braverman. My heart started beating quickly. Celia's John Braverman? Harry nodded. For how long? A few weeks. When were you going to tell me? I wasn't sure if I should. So their marriage is fake, Harry said. She doesn't love him, I asked. They sleep in separate beds. Have you seen her? Harry didn't answer at first. He looked as if he was trying to choose his words carefully, but I had no patience for perfect words. Harry, have you seen her? Yes. How does she seem? I asked, and then thought of a better question, one more pressing. Did she ask about me? While I had not found living without Celia to be easy, I did find it easier when I could pretend she was part of another world. But this, her existing in my orbit, made everything I had been repressing come bubbling up. She didn't, Harry said, but I suspect it's because she didn't want to ask, rather than not wanting to know. But she doesn't love him. Harry shook his head. No, she doesn't love him. I turned my head and looked back out the window. I imagined telling Harry to drive me to her house. I imagined running to her door. I imagined dropping to my knees and telling her the truth, that life without her was lonely and empty and quickly losing all meaning. Instead, I said, when should we do the picture? What? The picture of you and me, where we make it look like we've been caught in an affair. We can do it tomorrow night, Harry said. We can park the car, maybe up in the hills, so photogs can find us, but the picture will look secluded. I'll call Rich Rice. He needs some money. I shook my head. This can't come from us. These gossips aren't playing ball anymore. They are out for themselves. We need someone else to call it in, someone the rags will believe wants me to get caught. Who? I shake my head the moment the idea comes to me. I already don't want to do it the moment I realize I have to. I sat down at the phone in my study. I made sure the door was closed, and I dialed her number. Ruby? It's Evelyn, and I need a favor, I said as soon as she answered. I'm open to it, she said, not missing a beat. I need you to tip off some photographers. Say you saw me necking in a car up in the Truesdale Estates. What? Ruby said, laughing. Evelyn, what are you up to? Don't worry about what I'm up to. You have enough on your plate. Does this mean Rex is about to be single? She asked. Haven't you had enough of my leftovers? Honey, Don pursued me. I'm sure he did. The least you could have done was warn me, she said. You knew what he was doing behind my back, I said. What made you think he'd be any different with you? Not the cheating, Ev, she said. And that's when I realized he'd hit her, too. I was temporarily stunned silent. "You're okay now?" I asked after a moment. "You got away?" "Our divorce is final. I'm moving to the beach. Just bought a place in Santa Monica." "You don't think he's going to try to blackball you?" "He tried," Ruby said, "but he won't succeed. His last 3 movies barely broke even. He didn't get nominated for The Night Hunter like everybody thought. He's on a downward spiral. He's about to be as harmless as a declawed cat." I felt for him in some small way as I twirled the phone cord in my hand, but I felt for her much more. "How bad was it, Ruby?" "Nothing I couldn't hide with pancake makeup and long sleeves." The way she said it, the pride in her voice, as if admitting that it hurt her was a vulnerability she wasn't willing to give in to, made my heart break. It broke for her, and it broke for the me of all those years ago who did the same thing. "You'll come over for dinner one of these days," I said to her. "Oh, let's not do that, Evelyn," she said. "We've been through too much to be so phony." I laughed. "Fair enough." "Anybody in particular you want me to call tomorrow, or just anybody with a tip line?" "Anybody powerful will do. Anybody eager to make money off my demise." "Well, that's everybody," Ruby said. "No offense." "None taken." "You're too successful," she said. "Too many hits, too many handsome husbands. We all want to shoot you down from the air now." "I know, dear, I know. And when they're done with me, they'll come for you." "You're not really famous if anybody still likes you," Ruby said. "I'll call tomorrow. Good luck with whatever it is you're doing." "Thanks," I said. "You're a lifesaver." And as we hung up, I thought, if I'd told people what he was doing to me, he might not have had the chance to do it to her. I wasn't much interested in keeping a log of the victims of my decisions, but it did occur to me that if I was, I'd have had to put Ruby Riley on the list. I put on a risque dress that showed just a little too much cleavage, and I drove up Hillcrest Road with Harry. He pulled over to the side, and I moved toward him. I'd stuck with nude lipstick because I knew red would be pushing it. I was careful to control the elements enough, but not too much, because I didn't want it to look perfect. I wanted to be sure the photo wouldn't look staged. I needn't have been worried. Pictures speak very loudly. In general, we can almost never shake what we see with our eyes. "So, how do you want to do this?" Harry said. "Are you nervous?" I asked him. "Have you kissed a woman before?" Harry looked at me as if I was an idiot. "Of course I have." "Have you ever made love to one?" "Once." "Did you like it?" Harry thought, "That one's harder to answer." "Pretend I'm a man, then," I said. "Pretend you have to have me." "I can kiss you unprompted, Evelyn. I don't need you to direct me. We have to be doing it long enough that when they come by it looks like we've been here for a while." Harry messed up his hair and pulled at his collar. I laughed and messed mine up, too. I pushed one shoulder off my dress. "Ooh," Harry said, "it's getting very racy in here." I pushed him away, laughing. We heard a car coming up behind us, the headlights shining ahead. Panicked, Harry grabbed me by both arms and kissed me. He pressed his lips hard against mine, and just as the car passed us, he ran one hand through my hair. "I think it was just a neighbor," I said, watching the car's rear lights as it made its way farther up the canyon. Harry grabbed my hand. "We could do it, you know." "What?" "We could get married. I mean, as long as we're going to pretend to do it, we could really do it. It's not so crazy. After all, I love you, maybe not the way a husband is supposed to love a wife, but enough, I think. Harry. And what I told you yesterday about wanting a wife, I've been thinking, and if this works, if people buy it, maybe we could raise a family together. Don't you want to have a family?" "Yes," I said, "eventually I think I do. We could be great for each other." And we won't just give up when the bloom falls off the rose because we already know each other better than that. Harry, I can't tell if you're serious. I'm dead serious. At least I think I am. You want to marry me. I want to be with someone I love. I want to have a companion. I'd like to bring someone home to my family. I don't want to live alone anymore. And I want a son or a daughter. We could have that together. I can't give you everything, I know that, but I want to raise a family, and I'd love to raise one with you. Harry, I'm cynical and I'm bossy, and most people would consider me vaguely immoral. You're strong and resilient and talented. You're exceptional, inside and out. He had really thought about this. And you and your proclivities, how does that work? The same as it has with you and Rex. I do what I do, discreetly, of course. You do what you do. But I don't want to continue to have affairs my entire life. I want to be with someone I'm in love with, someone who's in love with me. Well, that I can't help you with, Harry said. For that one you have to call her. I looked down at my lap, stared at my fingernails. Would she take me back? She and John, me and Harry. It could actually work. It could work so beautifully. And if I couldn't have her, did I want anyone else? I was pretty sure that if I couldn't have her, all I wanted was a life with Harry. Okay, I said. Let's do it. Another car came up behind us, and Harry grabbed me again. This time he kissed me slowly, passionately. When a guy jumped out of his car with a camera, Harry pretended, just for a split second, that he didn't see him, and slipped his hand down the top of my dress. The image printed in the papers the next week was tawdry, scandalous, and shocking. It showed us with swollen faces and looks of guilt, Harry's hand clearly on my breast. The next day, everyone was printing headlines that Joy Nathan was pregnant. The four of us were the talk of the nation. Unscrupulous, unfaithful, lustful sinners. Carolina Sunset set a record for the longest stay in theaters. And to celebrate our divorce, Rex and I shared a pair of dirty martinis. To our successful union, Rex said, and then we clinked our glasses and drank.
It is 3 in the morning by the time I get home. Evelyn had downed 4 cups of coffee and apparently felt wired enough to keep talking. I could have bowed out at any point, but on some level, I think I welcomed the excuse not to go back to my own life for a little while. Being wrapped up in digesting Evelyn's story means I don't have to exist in my own. And anyway, it's not my place to go making the rules. I picked my battle. I won. The rest is up to her. So when I get home, I crawl into bed and will myself to fall asleep quickly. My last thought as I go to sleep is that I am relieved I have a valid excuse for why I haven't responded to David's text yet. I'm woken up by my cell phone ringing, and I look at the time. It's almost 9. It's Saturday. I was hoping to sleep in. My phone shows my mother's face smiling at me. It's not quite 6 her time. Mom? Is everything okay? Of course it is, she says, as if she's calling at noon. I just wanted to try and catch you and say hi before you headed out for the day. It's not even 6 a.m. where you are, I say. And it's the weekend. I'm mostly planning on sleeping in and transcribing some of the hours of Evelyn's recordings. We had a small earthquake about a half hour ago. Now I can't go back to sleep. How's it going with Evelyn? I feel weird calling her Evelyn, like I know her or something. I tell her about getting Frankie to agree to a promotion. I tell her that I got Evelyn to agree to a cover story. You're telling me you went up against the editor-in-chief of Vivant? and Evelyn Hugo both within 24 hours, and you came out getting what you want from everyone? I laugh, surprised at how impressive it sounds. Yeah, I say. I guess I did. My mom lets out what can only be described as a cackle. That's my girl, she says. Oof, let me tell you, your father would be beaming right now if he were here. Would just be glowing with pride. He always knew you were going to be a force to be reckoned with. I wonder if this is true. Not because my mom has ever really lied to me, but because it's just so hard for me to imagine. I can see my dad thinking I'd grow up to be kind or smart, that makes sense. But I've never thought of myself as a force to be reckoned with. Maybe I should start thinking of myself that way. Maybe I deserve to. I kind of am, aren't I? Don't mess with me, world. I'm out to get mine. That's right, honey, that you are. As I tell my mom I love her and I hang up the phone, I feel proud of myself, smug even. I have no idea that in less than a week, Evelyn Hugo will finish her story, and I'll find out what this has all been about. And I will hate her so much that I'll be truly afraid I might kill her.
Brilliant, kind-hearted, tortured Harry Cameron. I was nominated for Best Actress for Carolina Sunset. The only problem was that Celia was nominated that year, too. I showed up on the red carpet with Harry. We were engaged. He'd given me a diamond and emerald ring. It stood out against the black beaded dress I wore that night. 2 slits on either side of the skirt went up to my mid-thigh. I loved that dress. And so did everyone else. I've noticed that when people do retrospectives of my career, photos of me in that dress always make it in somehow. I made sure it would be included in the auction. I think it could raise a lot of money. It makes me happy that people love that dress as much as I do. I lost an Oscar, but it ended up being one of the greatest nights of my life. Celia arrived just before the show began. She was wearing a pale blue strapless gown with a sweetheart neckline. The color of her hair against the dress was striking. When my eyes set on her for the first time in nearly 5 years, I found myself breathless. I'd gone to see every single one of Celia's movies, even though I was loath to admit it, so I had seen her. But no medium can capture what it is to be in someone's presence. Certainly not someone like her. Someone who makes you feel important simply because she's choosing to look at you. There was something stately about her at the age of 28. She was mature and dignified. She looked like the kind of person who knew exactly who she was. She stepped forward and took John Braverman's arm. In a tux that seemed to strain at his broad shoulders, John looked as all-American as a husk of corn. They were a gorgeous couple, no matter how false it all was. "Ev, you're staring," Harry said as he pushed me into the theater. "Sorry," I said, "thank you." As we took our seats, we smiled and waved to everyone seated around us. Joy and Rex were a few rows behind us, and I waved politely, knowing people were watching, knowing that if I ran up and hugged them, people might be confused. When we sat down, Harry said, "If you win, will you talk to her?" I laughed. "And gloat?" "No, but you'd have the upper hand that you seem to so desperately want." "She left me." "You slept with someone." "For her." Harry frowned at me as if I was missing the point. "Fine, if I win, I'll talk to her." "Thank you." "Why are you thanking me?" "Because I want you to be happy, and it appears I have to reward you for doing things in your own favor." "Well, if she wins, I'm not saying a single word to her." "If she wins," Harry said delicately, "which is a big if, and she comes and talks to you, I will hold you down and force you to listen and speak back." I couldn't look directly at him. I was feeling defensive. "It's a moot point anyway," I said. "Everyone knows they're going to give it to Ruby because they feel bad she didn't get it last year for the dangerous flight." "They might not," Harry said. Yeah, I told him, "and I've got a bridge in Brooklyn to sell you." But when the lights dimmed and the host came out, I was not thinking that my chances were slim. I was just delusional enough to think the Academy might finally give me a goddamn Oscar. When they called out the nominees for Best Actress, I scanned the audience for Celia. I spotted her the very same moment she spotted me. We locked eyes, and then the presenter didn't say Evelyn or Celia, he said Ruby. When my heart sank into my chest, aching and heavy, I was mad at myself for believing I had a chance. And then I wondered if Celia was okay. Harry held my hand and squeezed it. I hoped John was squeezing Celia's. I excused myself to the bathroom. Bonnie Lakeland was washing her hands as I came in. She gave me a smile, and then she left. And I was alone. I sat in a stall and closed the door. I let myself cry. "Evelyn?" You don't spend years pining away for one voice, not to notice it when it finally appears. "Celia?" I said. My back was to the stall door. I wiped my eyes. "I saw you come in here," she said. "I thought it might be a sign that you were upset." "I'm trying to be happy for Ruby," I said, laughing just a little bit as I used a piece of toilet paper to carefully dry my eyes. "But it's not exactly my style." "Mine either," she said. I opened the door, and there she was, blue dress, red hair, small stature, with a presence that filled the whole room. And when her eyes set on me, I knew she still loved me. I could see it in the way her pupils widened and softened. "You're as gorgeous as ever," she said, as she leaned against the sink, her arms holding her weight behind her. There was always something intoxicating about the way Celia looked at me. I felt like a rare steak in front of a tiger. "You're not so bad yourself," I said. "We probably shouldn't be caught in here together," Celia said. "Why not?" I asked. "Because I suspect more than a few people seated in there know what we once got up to," she said. "I know you'd hate for them to think we were up to it again." This was a test. I knew it, she knew it. If I said the right thing, if I told her I didn't care what they thought, if I told her I'd make love to her in the middle of the stage in front of all of them, I just might be able to have her back. I let myself think about it for a moment. I let myself think about waking up tomorrow to her cigarette and coffee breath. But I wanted her to admit it wasn't all me, that she had played a part in our demise. Or maybe you just don't want to be seen with a... What was the word you used? I believe it was whore? Celia laughed and looked down at the floor and then back up at me. "What do you want me to say? That I was wrong? I was. I wanted to hurt you like you hurt me." "But I never meant to hurt you," I said. "Never once would I have done a single thing to hurt you on purpose." "You were ashamed to love me." "Absolutely not," I said. "That is absolutely untrue." "Well, you certainly went to great lengths to hide it." "I did what had to be done to protect both of us." "Debatable." "So debate it with me," I said, "instead of running away again." "I didn't run far, Evelyn. You could have caught up with me if you wanted to." "I don't like being played, Celia. I told you that the first time we went out for milkshakes." She shrugged. "You play everyone else." I have never claimed that I wasn't a hypocrite. "How do you do that?" Celia said. "Do what?" "Act so cavalier about things that are sacred to other people." "Because other people have got nothing to do with me." Celia scoffed, somewhat gently, and looked down at her hands. "Except you," I said. I was rewarded with the sight of her looking up at me. "I care about you," I said. "You cared about me." I shook my head. "No, I didn't misspeak." "You certainly moved on fast enough with Rex North." I frowned at her. "Celia, you know better than that." "So it was fake. Every moment." "Have you been with anyone else? Any men?" she asked. She was always jealous of the men, worried she couldn't compete. I was jealous of the women, worried I wouldn't compare. "I've had a good time," I said, "as I'm sure you've had." "John isn't—" "I'm not talking about John, but I'm sure you haven't kept chaste." I was fishing for information that might break my heart, a flaw of the human condition. "No," she said, "you're right about that." "Men?" I asked, hoping the answer was yes. If it was men, I knew it didn't mean anything to her. She shook her head, and my heart broke just a little bit more, like a tear that deepens from strain. "Anyone I know?" "None of them were famous," she said. "None of them meant anything to me. I touched them and thought of what it felt like to touch you." My heart both ached and swelled to hear it. "You shouldn't have left me, Celia. You shouldn't have let me leave." And with that I had no more fight in me. My heart cried out the truth through my throat. I know that, I know." Sometimes things happen so quickly, you aren't sure when you even realize they were about to begin. One minute she was leaning against the sink, the next her hands were on my face, her body pressed against me, her lips between mine. She tasted like the musky creaminess of thick lipstick and the sharp, spiced sting of rum. I was lost in her, in the feel of her on me once again, the sheer joy of her attention, the glory of knowing she loved me. And then the door was flung open, and the wives of two producers walked in. We broke apart. Celia pretended she had been washing her hands, and I moved to one of the mirrors and fixed my makeup. The two women talked together, caught up in their conversation, barely noticing us. They entered two stalls, and I looked at Celia. She looked at me. I watched her turn off the faucet and take a towel. I worried that she might walk right out the bathroom door. But she didn't. One of the wives left, and then the other. We were finally alone again. Listening closely, we could tell the show had come back from a commercial break. I grabbed Celia and kissed her. I pushed her up against the door. I couldn't get enough of her. I needed her. She was as much of a fix to me as any drug. Before I even stopped to consider the danger, I lifted her dress and slipped my hand up her thigh. I held her against the door, I kissed her, and with one hand I touched her the way I knew she liked. She moaned slightly and put her hand over her mouth. I kissed her neck, and the two of us, our bodies tightly wound, shuddered against the door. We could have been caught at any moment. If one woman in the whole auditorium chose to visit the ladies' room during those 7 minutes, we'd have lost everything we'd worked so hard for. That is how Celia and I forgave each other, and how we knew we couldn't live without each other, because now we both knew what we were willing to risk, just to be together.
Photo moment. August 14th, 1967. Evelyn Hugo weds producer Harry Cameron. 5th time's a charm? Evelyn Hugo and producer Harry Cameron married last Saturday during a ceremony on the beaches of Capri. Evelyn wore an off-white silk gown and had her long blonde hair down and parted in the middle. Harry, known for being one of the better-dressed Hollywood players, wore a cream-colored linen suit. Celia St. James, America's sweetheart, attended as the maid of honor, and her fabulous hubby, John Braverman, served as the best man. Harry and Evelyn have been working together since the 50s, when Evelyn came to fame in such hits as Father and Daughter and Little Women. They admitted they were having an affair late last year when they were caught in flagrante while Evelyn was still married to Rex North. Rex is now married to Joy Nathan and the proud papa of their little girl, Violet North. We're glad that Evelyn and Harry have decided to finally make it official. After such a shocking beginning to their relationship and a long engagement, all we can say is, it's about time.
Celia got absolutely smashed during the wedding. She was having a hard time not being jealous, even though she knew the whole thing was fake. Her own husband was standing next to Harry, for crying out loud. And we all knew what we were. 2 men sleeping together, married to 2 women sleeping together. We were 4 beards. And what I thought as I said, I do, was, it's all beginning now. Real life. Our life. We're finally going to be a family. Harry and John were in love. Celia and I were sky high. When we got back from Italy, I sold my mansion in Beverly Hills. Harry sold his. We bought this place in Manhattan on the Upper East Side, just down the street from Celia and John. Before I agreed to move, I had Harry look into whether my father was still alive. I wasn't sure I could live in the same city he lived in, wasn't sure I could handle the idea of running into him. But when Harry's assistant searched for him, I learned that my father had died in 1959 of a heart attack. What little he owned was absorbed by the state when no one came forward to claim it. My first thought when I heard he was gone was, so that's why he never tried to come after me for money. And my second was, how sad that I'm certain that's all he'd ever want. I put it out of my head, signed the paperwork on the apartment, and celebrated the purchase with Harry. I was free to go wherever I wanted. And what I wanted was to move to the Upper East Side of Manhattan. I persuaded Louisa to join us. This apartment might be within a long walk's distance, but I was 1,000,000 miles away from Hell's Kitchen. And I was world famous, married, in love, and so rich it sometimes made me sick. A month after we moved to town, Celia and I took a taxi to Hell's Kitchen and walked around the neighborhood. It looked so different from when I left. I brought her to the sidewalk just below my old building and pointed at the window that used to be mine. Right there, I said, on the 5th floor. Celia looked at me with compassion for all I had been through when I lived there, for all I had done for myself since then. And then she calmly, confidently took my hand. I bristled, unsure if we should be touching in public, scared of what people would do. But the rest of the people on the street just kept on walking, kept on living their lives, almost entirely unaware of or uninterested in the 2 famous women holding hands on the sidewalk. Celia and I spent our nights together in this apartment. Harry spent his nights with John at their place. We went out to dinner in public, the 4 of us looking like 2 pairs of heterosexuals, without a heterosexual in the bunch. The tabloids called us America's favorite double daters. I even heard rumors that the 4 of us were swingers, which wasn't that crazy for that period of time. It really makes you think, doesn't it, that people were so eager to believe we were swapping spouses, but would have been scandalized to know we were monogamous and queer. I'll never forget the morning after the Stonewall riots. Harry was at rapt attention, watching the news. John was on the phone all day with friends of his who lived downtown. Celia was pacing the living room floor, her heart racing. She believed everything was going to change after that night. She believed that because gay people had announced themselves, had been proud enough to admit who they were, and strong enough to stand up, attitudes were going to change. I remember sitting out on our rooftop patio looking southward and realizing that Celia, Harry, John, and I weren't alone. It seems silly to say now, but I was so self-involved, so singularly focused, that I rarely took time to think of the people out there like myself. That isn't to say that I wasn't aware of the way the country was changing. Harry and I campaigned for Bobby Kennedy. Celia posed with Vietnam protesters on the cover of Effect. John was a vocal supporter of the civil rights movement, and I had been a very public supporter of the work of Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. But this was different. This was our people. And here they were, revolting against the police in the name of their right to be themselves, while I was sitting in a golden prison of my own making. I was out on the terrace, directly in the sun, on the afternoon after the initial riots, wearing high-waisted jeans and a black sleeveless top, drinking a Gibson, and I started crying when I realized those men were willing to fight for a dream I had never even allowed myself to envision. A world where we could be ourselves, without fear and without shame. Those men were braver and more hopeful than I was. There were simply no other words for it. "There's a plan to riot again tonight," John said as he joined me on the patio. He had such an intimidating physical presence, more than 6 feet tall, 225 pounds, with a tight crew cut. He looked like a guy you didn't want to mess with. But anyone who knew him, and especially those of us who loved him, knew he was the first guy you could mess with. He may have been a warrior on the football field, but he was the sweetheart of our foursome. He was the guy who asked how you slept the night before, the guy who always remembered the smallest thing you said 3 weeks ago. And he took it on as his job to protect Celia and Harry, and by extension me. John and I loved the same people, and so we loved each other. And we also loved playing gin rummy. I can't tell you how many nights I stayed up late finishing a hand of cards with John, the two of us deadly competitive, trading off who was the gloating winner and who was the sore loser. "We should go down there," Celia said, joining us. John took a seat in a chair in the corner. Celia sat on the arm of the chair I was in. "We should support them. We should be a part of this." I could hear Harry calling John's name from the kitchen. "We're out here," I yelled to him at the same moment as John said, "I'm on the patio." Soon Harry appeared in the doorway. "Harry, don't you think we should go down there?" Celia said. She lit a cigarette, took a drag, and handed it to me. I was already shaking my head. John outright told her no. "What do you mean, no?" Celia said. "You're not going down there," John said. "You can't. None of us can." "Of course I can," she said, looking to me to back her up. "Sorry," I said, giving her the cigarette back. "I'm with John on this." "Harry?" she said, hoping to make one final successful plea. Harry shook his head. "We go down there, all we do is attract attention away from the cause and toward us. The story becomes about whether we're homosexuals and not about the rights of homosexuals." Celia put the cigarette to her lips and inhaled. She had a sour look on her face as she blew the smoke into the air. "So what do we do then? We can't sit here and do nothing. We can't let them fight our fight for us." "We give them what we have, and they don't," Harry said. "Money," I said, following his train of thought. John nodded. "I'll call Peter. He'll know how we can fund them. He'll know who needs resources." "We should have been doing that all along," Harry said. "So let's just do it from now on. No matter what happens tonight, no matter what course this fight takes, let's just decide here and now that our job is to fund. I'm in, I said. Yeah, John nodded, of course. Okay, Celia said, if you're sure that's the way we can do the most good. It is, Harry said. I'm sure of it. We started filtering money privately that day, and I've continued to do so the rest of my life. In the pursuit of a great cause, I think people can be of service in a number of different ways. I always felt that my way was to make a lot of money and then channel it to the groups that needed it. It's a bit self-serving, that logic, I know that. But because of who I was, because of the sacrifices I made to hide parts of myself, I was able to give more money than most people ever see in their entire lifetime. I am proud of that. But it does not mean I wasn't conflicted. And of course, a lot of the time, that ambivalence was even more personal than it was political. I knew it was imperative that I hide, and yet I did not believe I should have to. But accepting that something is true isn't the same as thinking that it is just. Celia won her second Oscar in 1970 for her role as a woman who cross-dresses to serve as a World War I soldier in the film Our Men. I could not be in Los Angeles with her that night because I was shooting Jade Diamond in Miami. I was playing a prostitute living in the same apartment as a drunk. But Celia and I both knew that even if I had been free as a bird, I could not go to the Academy Awards on her arm. That evening, Celia called me after she was home from the ceremony and all the parties. I screamed into the phone. I was so happy for her. "You've done it," I said. "Twice now, you've done it." "Can you believe it?" she said. "2 of them." "You deserve them. The whole world should be giving you an Oscar every day as far as I'm concerned." "I wish you were here," she said petulantly. I could tell she'd been drinking. I would have been drinking too if I'd been in her position, but I was irritated that she had to make things so difficult. I wanted to be there. Didn't she know that? Didn't she know that I couldn't be there? And that it killed me? Why did it always have to be about what all of this felt like for her? "I wish I was too," I told her. "But it's better this way. You know that." "Ah, yes, so that people won't know you're a lesbian." I hated being called a lesbian. Not because I thought there was anything wrong with loving a woman, mind you. No, I'd come to terms with that a long time ago. But Celia only saw things in black and white. She liked women, and only women. And I liked her. And so she often denied the rest of me. She liked to ignore the fact that I had truly loved Don Adler once. She liked to ignore the fact that I had made love to men and enjoyed it. She liked to ignore it until the very moment she decided to be threatened by it. That seemed to be her pattern. I was a lesbian when she loved me, and a straight woman when she hated me. People were just starting to talk about the idea of bisexuality, but I'm not sure I even understood that the word referred to me then. I wasn't interested in finding a label for what I already knew. I loved men. I loved Celia. I was okay with that. "Celia, stop it. I'm sick of this conversation. You're being a brat." She laughed coldly. "Exactly the same Evelyn I've been dealing with for years. Nothing's changed. You're afraid of who you are, and you still don't have an Oscar. You are what you have always been, a nice pair of tits." I let the silence hang in the air for a moment. The buzz of the phone was the only sound either of us could hear. And then Celia started crying. "I'm so sorry," she said. "I should never have said that. I don't even mean it. I'm so sorry. I've had too much to drink, and I miss you, and I'm sorry that I said something so terrible." "It's fine," I said. "I should be going. It's late here, you understand. Congratulations again, sweetheart." I hung up before she could reply. That was how it was with Celia. When you denied her what she wanted, when you hurt her, she made sure you hurt too.